My name's Aurelis, and this is my channel, Nursing Wildfire. I just love Black History Month. There's so many things to discuss. The topic of racism and where people of color stand in this country is so very important. And even as a former educator, it's something that I would incorporate into my teaching, not only during Black History Month, but throughout. And now that I'm a nurse, I think it's important to have these conversations, and I think these conversations often happen between nurses of color or healthcare professionals of color because we're more sensitive to it. We're the ones experiencing it. So a little history on me. I do identify as an Afro-Latina, which surprises most people because most people look at me and assume that I am African American, but I'm not. I was born in the Dominican Republic. Both my parents are from the Dominican Republic. Yes, there are Black people in Hispanic countries. We are all over. And actually, that is a history lesson in itself because a lot of people like to play ignorant and believe that Black people only exist in the US and Africa, and that is not the case. So, I am Caribbean, I am Latina, I am Black, I am a lot of things. So I fall into a lot of buckets. I love the fact that I grew up in a very diverse culture because a lot of Dominicans don't look like me, but a lot of them do. It depends, it's all regional. Some places, you'll have a very light-skinned Dominican, other places you'll have a really dark-skinned Dominican. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. My mom does not look like me. My dad is the darker one. And my mom's very light-skinned, so when I was younger, people didn't believe she was my mom, but she is. And her dad is actually very Black. She just happened to come out really light. And all her siblings are all different colors. So for me, it was very normal to be part of a family where everybody didn't look like each other. I have blonde and blue-eyed cousins, and I have cousins that are dark as me, and it's just, it's a very different experience. There are a lot of issues that I have with nursing. I think much more so than my previous career, because in my previous career I was teaching inner city youth, right? So it was almost an advantage to be a person of color. My kids saw me and they saw representation. But in nursing, I've noticed that it's been a large disadvantage. It's definitely a field in where not many nurses are Black. I think more so now, but it's very particular, right? So there's this structural racism in that, let's say as a Black person, I wanted to get into ICU, critical care positions, ED positions. And yes, there are people of color in those positions, but if you look at the difference between how many white nurses there are to how many nurses of color there are, it is staggering, okay? I knew so many students who I had better grades than, who had more life experience and work experience than, who ended up straight from graduation in these NICU, ICU positions, new grad programs, and I ended up in a nursing home. And what I noticed when I started working in nursing is that so many Black nurses end up in a nursing home first. And this narrative of you need 2 years experience in a nursing home before you can be in a hospital, and then you need 2 years experience of med surg before they would even consider you for a critical care position, and it's all BS. It's all BS because at the end of the day, I know 22-year-olds that are blonde and blue-eyed and ended up in the ICU, no issues, and they just knew somebody, or their networking skills might have been better than mine. But at the end of the day, the reality is I saw a lot of people start out in critical care who were not of color. Point blank, period. And one of the reasons I switched hospitals was because the hospital in the city, I would have more experiences with patients of color than I did at the hospital I was at. Because I was at that hospital for a long time per diem, but then I transitioned to full-time and left my other hospital because it was the only hospital I had seen through my clinicals where I saw people who looked like me with MDs, with managerial positions, with just that upward mobility that I did not see at other hospitals, right? And then when I got to this hospital, like, this is true, there are a lot of nurse managers that are Black. There are nurses in critical care that are colored. There are, more so than in other places. But the ratio doesn't really change. It's a larger hospital and they have more people. It's a larger hospital and they have more people, but then the percentage of white people in these areas are still pretty high, right? And so I was having a conversation with a fellow nurse. She's Haitian, and we were talking about how diverse the med-surg floors are. You go to med-surg, you're gonna see a lot of Black nurses, which is good for the patients because they feel represented, right? But a lot of us wanted to be in critical care. Like, a lot of us wanted to start there. And it took someone who actually precepted me at the beginning to advocate for everyone as a community, like, this is not fair, there's clearly an issue here. And then they developed a program at this hospital to kind of catalyst to pretty much assist nurses of color in getting in critical care positions. In a lot of places, critical care positions pay more. I've been looking into travel nursing, not that I have decided yet to transition to travel nursing, but I've been looking into it, and it's really disappointing that the price, the wages for a critical care nurse versus a med-surg nurse is huge. They make about $1,000 more a week, give or take, depending on the contract. And I have some feelings about that because it's not fair that we weren't given those opportunities as someone who isn't of color would have been given, right? So in leading with the structural aspect of things, right, the hospital itself and the opportunity it brings people of color, there are issues with management, because I've seen it happen where you have someone in a position of power who looks down on someone of color, where you as a person of color have to go out of your way to prove yourself as worthy, as capable. People just assume that you're just gonna be dumb, that you barely passed your classes, that you did the bare minimum to get there, which is outstanding to me because it's hard for a lot of nurses of color to even be in an opportunity to educate themselves appropriately, right? And the fact that someone graduated from a great university or a solid school and people still doubt them, it's really upsetting because most nurses with a BSN work their asses off to get there, right? So that's really frustrating. And I know that this varies very much from areas in the country. So like I said, I'm predominantly from the Northeast. I have had snippets of experiences in not working, not professionally, but I've gone to other parts of the country like Florida, Cali, the South, and I do see a staggering difference in the way people are treated. And it's kind of one of those things where people say, pick your poison, and that's like, you gotta pick your racism. What type of racism do you tolerate? In the Northeast, it's a lot of insinuated racism. There's this PC culture, everybody wants to be left wing and, oh my God, I would never be racist, Black Lives Matter, and all these things. But when push comes to shove and it's time to be an ally, very few people know what that actually looks like, and they fail the test every time. So, and versus the South, I hear from, especially from travel nurses I've talked to who have been down South and worked down South, you do get more of that upfront racism, especially by patients who are, older and demented. They'll say stuff like, I don't want no Black nurse taking care of me, and things like that. And that's crappy. Like, there's no way around that. And it sucks that we have to experience that. Yes, there are issues with the patients, But I think for me, what bothers me the most is the structural and within the nursing community itself, or like within a unit, the culture that is formed, right? Like those social interactions that have racial tones to them. It's just unacceptable. It's 2022. No one should be putting up with that. So, for example, let's say the hospital I previously worked at, it was mostly older nurses, and a lot of them can get a little catty towards each other, but then they would help each other before they would help you. They would dismiss you. They would just like, you know, and it's just like, who do you think you are? Like, why do you think you're better than me? And it's not because I'm necessarily a new nurse, because I've seen other new nurses come in, and because they fit their little clique, they are automatically accepted into the culture they've created, right? And I don't fit in there because of the way I look, because of the way I act, because of the way I speak, because of this, because of that, blah, 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 blah. And it's really upsetting because I see it repeated a lot. Even when I worked in the clinic, or, you know, certain people asking, oh, where's the nurse? And I'm like, I'm literally the nurse. I have an ID. It says RN on it. There's a huge RN tag. You can't miss it. Why are you assuming I'm the aide, right? And just all these little small assumptions that get made. That is the most annoying thing. And it's one of those microaggressions that not only staff puts on you, but also the patients put on you. So it's not until there is a rapid response, there's a code, there's you know, an emergent situation where you just like go into gear. The goal is to save the patient, right? And at that point, you know, you're doing your part, and then at the end they're like, wow, like you did so well in there, thank you so much, like I really appreciate your support and all this stuff. Like all of a sudden you're a fucking hero, and that's cool or whatever. But then the next day it's back to square one. We're back to where we were, and it's just these, I guess you can call it workplace politics, where it's like, okay, now thank you, but know your place type of mentality. And I don't appreciate that. And honestly, at the current hospital I work for, there is less of it because, like I said, I am on a diverse floor. There are a lot of Black nurses, but again, it's specific to med-surg, and that's what's disappointing. That's where the structural issues lie. And I would love for there to be more opportunities for people of color to be in these positions, because we're just as intelligent, we're just as experienced, and we offer a lot of skills. It's crazy to me that every job I've ever had in my life, being bilingual has always been something that has come in handy. Oh my God, let me borrow your Spanish. Let me borrow your Spanish. Or like, come here, I need you to translate for me. Oh, we can't get a translator. Please, please, please. And it's like you're taking me away from my patients, from my work to help you. And so don't tell me I'm not a vital part of this team or a vital part of this workplace, because clearly, you know, I've never been fired from a job. Every time I've left, people try to retain me. And I know my worth. I know that at the end of the day, I bring a lot to the table. And it's not fair that when you're asking to be trained, when you're asking to be put in these more prominent positions, you're not getting them. So that brings me into the topic of patients, right? Patients themselves. When you're on a floor, you have an assignment and you're directly taking care of these people. There is nothing worse than you're going out of your way to take care of someone and they insult you. And they're ungrateful and they're rude. There are people who are like this and who aren't white, who are of color, who look like me. And I'm not gonna take it. I'm here to make you better. I'm here to help you relieve whatever ailment you have, but I am not here to kiss your ass. I am not here to wait on you hand and foot, and this is not a hotel. So that is my attitude for everyone across the board. But when you add the component of race, oh my God, I am like a bat out of hell. I'm gonna tell you something. My kids used to say, You know she's mad when the Spanish comes out. And that's true. Because I feel in Spanish. My head starts going. And listen, there's just like, that is a trigger. Between calling me out of my name and also being a racist, like, I'm just not going to put up with it. And the way I look at it is, if my job has a problem with how I dealt with a racist bastard, then I don't want to work there. Fire me on the spot. Might as well, I will quit on the spot. You are not going to degrade me. You are not going to take away my dignity. And that is something that I don't care who you are. You could be the president of this country. You could be the Queen of England. You could be whoever, but you are not going to degrade me. You're not going to treat me like I'm less than, because I'm not. So, a little story time. The first ever racist experience I ever had with a patient actually happened last week. And it wasn't my patient. I was going in there with another nurse. My patient was his neighbor. Poor thing, sickle cell. He's on a PCA for a dilaudid. I was switching out the PCA. And we had to turn on the light. I work overnight, and it's, it's winter, so by then, it's really dark in the room. We cannot see. We need light to do this handoff, me and this other nurse. The other nurse is Hispanic. She's from South America somewhere. She's very light-skinned. She looks like the quintessential traditional Hispanic person. So you have a Hispanic-looking nurse, and then you have me, who's also Hispanic, but I'm obviously very black. So he comes, we turn on the light, and he's like, "Why are you turning the light for? Why are you turning on the light?" And he's going into a full-blown tantrum. And I'm like, we have a job to do, and you're just going to have to be patient. I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable at the moment because we had to turn on the light, but there's nothing we can do about that. You're just going to have to wait a minute. And he just kept going and going until he finally says, like, "You black people ruin everything. That's the problem with this country. You black people." Listen, I never moved so fast in my life because my patient, his neighbor, was black. Poor thing, suffering with pain, sickle cell, all that. And he just goes, "What the hell did you say?" And I just ripped open that curtain and I let him have it. I literally told him, "You better calm your ass down, because if you got a problem with the color of our skin, we can have security up here in a minute and they will handle you. They will handle you. Because we ain't gonna do that. You come to this hospital to get care. If you want proper care, you better start learning how to deal with people of color. Because we ain't gonna play those games. We just not. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it here. And if you got a problem with me, tell me right now. We'll resolve it. We will resolve it really quickly." And that is, and I still get fired up because the fact that I wasn't treating this man, but the fact that I knew whoever had been treating him that day was probably someone of color. It's like, don't be ungrateful. And he was, one of these people that had addiction issues, homeless, etc. So it's like, don't come at me talking down to me when I have a home to go to, okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. And it's just one of those things where they don't have any power in their life, and that's the one thing they have, that white privilege. And it's like, no, you're not going to exert that here. You're just not. And like I said before, if anybody had an issue with the way I handled that situation, they can fire me on the spot, or I'll quit on the spot. I dare someone to talk to me about a racist interaction and them not liking the way I handled it. Because especially if it's somebody who's white, don't come to me telling me how to react when I'm the one being offended. Because there's a difference between being professional and then just being slighted, right? Just being completely insulted. It is not our job. It is not our job to put up with that. It's just not. So don't. There will be other jobs. your family, your health, and your dignity. That is all you have. So don't put up with it. Just don't do it. Because the more you put up with stuff, the more they're gonna do it. And that's the thing that nurses and just people of color, professionals of color need to understand, is that you have more power than you believe you do, that you think you do, that they think you do. You have a lot of power. We're about to take over this workforce, and we have a lot of say, and we have to act that way. Respect yourself. And by respecting yourself, you put someone who's racist in place. I have made an 83-year-old man cry because he was just out of line. He was being sexist. He wasn't being racist. He was being sexist. And as a woman, I'm offended. I'm taking care of you and you act this type of way. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. And people might be thinking like, I don't know, some people say because of the way I speak or whatever, they think I'm going to be some type of way and then I'm not. It's like, because I'm a professional. If I'm a professional, I want to speak a certain way, that's how I'm going to speak. But that has nothing to do with my personality. That has nothing to do with my personality. So I'm just telling you, come correct. Come correct, because we're just like, I don't care if I am sobbing and I'm angry and I'm cussing you out. I am just not going to put up with that nonsense. And you shouldn't either. And that's pretty much my advice to y'all. Have a blessed day. Don't put up with shit. And I will see you in the next